Hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome to the class for Linux Fundamentals. In today's video, I'll give you a brief overview of how, Linux, its file systems, its directory structure, and the Linux boot process. And we will have some videos on how Linux system works later, like shell commands, etc. over later. To do this, I have created a VM in Azure, which is a Ubuntu VM. So it doesn't matter what flavor of Linux you are using. So I'm just going to fire it up and I'll copy the IP address and I'm going to launch the shell here. And to connect to the Linux command is SSH, the username and the IP address. And if you have a key file, then it is switch I and the name of the key file. Just waiting for the terminal to come up. So it's almost here. So I'll just type here SSH and the username is Azure user @ public IP address, enter, and I should be connected to the machine. And the password is p @ ssw0rd1234. It's a common password which is used around Linux machines, and the file machine is available. Now, in regard to the boot process, the Linux boots using the grub. The bootloader, like any Mac machine or any Windows machine, the first thing that they check is usually the basic input-output system. So in Windows machine, you will see the keyboard lights turn on. In Mac machine, you will see that the logo comes and the ping sound comes. They are checking, and the keyboard and mouse is also checked. So same happens with all the resources. So it checks that all the hardware is located to the boot device, and then the grub, the bootloader, which is grub, is loaded, and it initializes the kernel, and it fires up the operating system. Now in Linux, there is also something which is known as init processes, so init. So they will always run for the first time when the user processes it. So any user script written that needs to be booted up when the machine is launched for the first time, init will do it, and the system daemon will initialize, so which is also known as system.d. So systemd, which initializes, and it mounts the file system, etc. onto the system and initiates users to log in. So basically, this is how the process in the Linux to boot up works. Now, as far as the directory structure is concerned, Linux has got, as it is born from basically Unix, similar system. So anything that is on Unix will more or less run on Linux, but anything that is on Linux will also run on Unix. If you want, you can also use your Mac terminal window, and the Mac terminal window will be able to run most of the Linux commands, as it is based on Unix operating system. Now, when we say the directory structure, we don't call them folders, we don't call them file like subfolders, etc. In Linux, everything is directory or subdirectory. Linux is very particular about spaces, Linux is very particular about cases, Linux is very particular about switches. So be very careful when you are using them and applying them. Now, to start with this is my current location, which is present working directory, and I'm working in home Azure user. So this is where I am, and the tilde character here, which is below the escape key, is the location or the it's kind of intimation that you are located in the home folder. So anywhere you are, if you type there cd change directory to tilde, it will take you back to the home folder. So starting, we have cd root. So the root directory structure, now everything has changed to root, and in Linux we use / instead of / like in Windows. And now if I say ls, which is to list the directory, -L, you will see that these are the common directory structure that is available here. So we have a bin directory, a boot directory, a device directory, a etc directory, home directory, media, mount, optional procedures, root, run, sbin, snap, srv, sys, temp, user, variable. So I'll tell you briefly about what these directory is about. Anything is a directory starts with a D. So you have to remember that if anything starts with D and rest are permissions, it starts with directory D. Anything that starts with L is basically a soft link. So for example, if you have got a long directory in a subdirectory structure and you don't want to type a long directory or subdirectory structure again and again, you can create a soft link. So if you type bin, it will automatically means that it is user bin. If you type lib, it automatically means it is user lib. If you type library 64, it automatically means or takes you to lib 64 and so on. And the temp, which holds the temporary data, the file ends with T. So these are few things that you need to remember. And this is the user, the group, the size of the file, day created, and time, etc., and year and so on, and this is the name of the directory. Now root directory contains the entire directory structure. Now talking about bin basically contains all the binary data. So when you say cd bin and you say ls, now see, there are tons of files. So it contains all the executable programs that is required by Unix, and it is available to all users. So whatever you see, this is highlighted in dark green, like the color, it means these files are executable. So check more, ls-l, you will see all of these files have got executing permission. That is why they are in this dark green. So it depends, it's not necessary that it will show you in this color, but depends on version to version, process to processes, system to systems. It will show you that the privileges are available there, and sudo gives you a full permission to do anything and everything onto the system. So we'll go back with cd dot dot. So dot dot basically takes you to the parent directory. We go back to root, and now next directory is sbin. So let's look what is there in this sbin. So sbin basically contains all the executable programs, but not for all users, but for administrators. So this is basically for the root users. For system maintenance, we use sbin and the executables in it. So for example, if you want to make a file system, if you want to make a btrs file system, or if you want a ext24 or 3 or 4, like journal, etc., based file system and so on. So you can use any of these. So remember, bin is for every user, sbin is for super users. Then you have etc. So cd etc. etc contains all the configuration files. So if I do ls here, you will see a lot of conf files are there. So it contains a lot of configuration file for various applications and data that is available for all the users, which they can use it. So for example, you have cron tab, which is for scheduling work. Then you have init, then you have ec2 corrupt conf, then you have add user configuration, and so on. So I'll just show you one of them. So I'll just say cat is to display the content of the file or concatenation, and I'll say add user.conf, and there is some data written in this. So all the configuration is available in the etc directory. Let's go back and let's now look about what is there in the home directory. So cd home. So home contains all the users information. So this is what I am. I am in Azure user, and if I would have been a root user, then there will be two users, root and Azure. These are basically the two directories created for us. So home contains directories for regular users, where users can store their personal data. So going back, then we have user, which is the user. So it contains all the user related programs. So it contains all the binaries, the libraries, and all the documentation and other read-only data. So you have subdirectory user bin, user sbin, user local, user libx. So I'll just show you what is there in for example lib. So we'll do cd lib, we'll further go into subdirectory and do ls, and it will give you some information about the library files. So for example, console setup, bus, dpkg, which is debian packaging system, and so on, which is available, or a universal firewall over available here, or system controller daemon, or statistics, or system users daemon, temp file daemon, and so on is available here. So we'll go back again to the root. And another thing is that if you want to go back without saying root, so you can also write cd dot dot, go to the parent, and then go to the parent. Then it also takes you to the root. So you can go either way as well. Then we have var directory. So var basically contains all the variable data. So cd var. So var is basically contains mostly the logs, mostly data, emails, queues, spool, or temporary data. So if you do ls-l here, you will see it has got the log over here, and it has got the size of the file. So you can check here cd log and do ls and see a lot of logs are there. And you can further go into them. So for example, what is this WA agent log, or cloud init log, or authorization log? So let's check what is there in authorization log. Sorry, Control C, I pressed the character by error. So see, the log is there, the data is there. So the logs are connected and the entire information is stored. So just an example, this is variable, it's not fixed. We'll keep on adding, deleting, moving, etc., etc. onto the system. So I'll go back again to the root folder. And the next directory we have TMP, which is temporary data. It holds all the temporary data. And whenever you boot your system, the temporary data is cleaned. So we'll go to cd tmp and we will do ls, and see it has got some temporary files or data over here. So you can also do ls-l. If you want, you can check any of them if there is any data, but usually you're not allowed to do it. But I'll just show you cd and systemd. This is the first one, and here, and if I do ls, so it says see permission denied. I'm not allowed to go into the file because I don't have the permission. So I may try with sudo, but sudo does not work with cd, so it will not allow you to go to the system. But if you go as a super user or a root user, then you can go and look into the temporary data. But this data will be deleted once the system boots, and new temporary data will be created. So it's absolutely TMP. TMP means TMP. There is nothing that is going to be persistent data. So it will be, it's basically a data that is going to be deleted every time, and it is often cleared when the system reboots. So I'll go back to the root. The next is boot. So boot contains static files, which is required for boot processes, like Linux processes, like configuration files for booting. So then we have ls. So you see all this EFI, grub, and init, etc. So if I can say cd grub, so grub is the new boot process. Earlier we used to have a system which was lilo, and if I do ls, you see a lot of grub information is available over here. So this is very system oriented data. We should not try to mess around with it if we don't know much about it. And yeah, that's all I will say about this here. Then we have device directory, cd dev. And this is all I am doing it from where I showed you in the root. And I'll go back again and I'll explain it with an overview. So if I do ls, all the device files are listed here. And with this current server, we can connect up to 64 terminals. That is why Linux or Unix is known as a multi-user operating system. So you can go and have a look at it. So it contains information about all the devices that are on the system, like hard disk, like printer, any terminals, etc. So this is your disks, SDB. Then you have something which is known as standard input device, output device, standard error. Then you have your CD-ROM, which is actually not there anymore, but because it is part of the process, it is always created. And they are basically known by numbers SR0, 1, 2 for various devices. So a lot of information is here, and as far as the disk and the partitions are concerned, we will be covering in some other lecture. CD ... and the next directory we have is proc, which is processes. So CD proc, it contains all the system processes that are running at the moment. So there are tons of processes running. So any process that is running and the kernel parameters will be stored in the proc directory. So it's basically a task of Windows. So it's like a processes, and these are all process numbers that are running at the moment. So just to say PS, so I have two processes. One is bash, and just now I executed a command PS. So PS itself is a process. But if I do PS again, the new number will come, but the process of bash never changes. So again, we will cover proc in some other lecture. Processes are very important part of Linux, and we should know more about it. Going back, let's go to OPT, which is optional. So anything that is not part of Linux, but you want to install them and run them. So let's have a look. So currently there is nothing in here, but you can install all third-party softwares will be stored in opt directory. So many times we install various agents. That is where this will be stored into the optional directory or OPT directory. Then we have media. Media as a directory will contain all the media files, like all your USBs, CDs and DVDs will be mounted onto the media. Like media contains all the information, so it is basically a mount point for all your external disks, etc., and they will be loaded onto media. Then we have a MNT directory, which is mount. And if I do ls, so there is nothing at the moment, but mount basically mounts any temporary file systems that are running onto the Linux operating system. So mount and media are two different things. So many times we create file systems and we mount them, then we mount them on the mount folder, on the, directory. Then we have something which is known as SRV, which is also known as service. So it contains the data that is provided, and all the web server data is stored in the SRV directory. So we'll go back here, and lastly we have root. So root contains all the information about the root user. So this is a brief overview, and this is what I just told you about the directory structure, the binary, the devices, the boot, etc. for configuration, home, lost and found, media, mount, optional, proc, root. Then you have run, and then you have snap, SRV, sys, TMP, user and variable data. So I'm sure you like this, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me, and I'll be happy to assist you onto it. And if you want, you can leave your queries over there. Now, just a couple of things before we close it. Now, I think I didn't speak about run. I remember just now. So run basically contains all the runtime data. So if I go to cd run and I do ls, so it contains all the runtime data for the machine or the system. We'll go back here, and I think I also did not talk about lost and found. So if I do cd lost plus found, so this contains all the information or recovered bits of any corrupted file will be found in lost and found. Data of the system will be found over there. And I think apart from that, I covered everything. I did not miss on anything. And thanks for watching. And let's meet and next, and we will start bit about bash commands. Thanks.